From a baby to a toddler, we're about to begin our formative years. A time when we will put our growing brain and developing immune system to the test. From infancy to childhood, we're still growing fast and learning to stand on our own 2 feet. Next is a uniquely human challenge. Learning to talk. Most of us learn to talk by our first birthday. But by 2 years old, we're learning 10 new words a day. This is the Broca's area, the region at the side of the brain involved in processing language. With it, we can create sentences and communicate complex thoughts. Language is what separates us from other animals. By talking, we can exchange thoughts and ideas. We can teach our children not just by showing, but by telling. As our brain develops, we gain other uniquely human qualities. We're aware of our own identity and individuality. We learn to think for ourselves. We become conscious of ourselves as an individual. And we're forming memories that will last a lifetime.
It's going to look like a lovely...
Human childhood is unique. Few other mammals spend such a huge portion of their lives preparing for adulthood. To do so would be a costly waste of time. By the equivalent age in their lifespan, most mammals, like dogs, would already be reproducing. Not so with us humans. The timeline set by our DNA clock puts a delay on our sexual development to give us enough time for one thing: learning. It takes well over a decade to learn the complex skills we need to become adults and eventually parents ourselves. Throughout childhood, we are primed to learn. Our brain is a mass of 100 billion nerve cells called neurons. Between them, they generate enough electricity to keep a light bulb burning for a day. The neurons communicate using electric impulses. Each impulse is a tiny fraction of a thought and memory. When we hear a new word, our ears convert the sound into electrical impulses in our brain. The brain can learn because the connections between the brain cells, the neurons, aren't permanent. The brain rewires itself. The neurons send out tendrils, constantly forming new connections. Where they meet is a synapse. Chemicals called neurotransmitters bridge the gap to allow the impulse to continue the chain. The new connections form a pattern, a new memory. We learn by making new connections between brain cells and then reinforcing them through repetition. The stronger the reinforcement, the more likely the memory will stick.
What does the word ʟɪᴠɪ.
And when later someone asks us to recall that memory, the same pattern of brain cells fires. And we remember the answer. Because the brain grows quickly in childhood, millions of new connections are being made all the time, making this the perfect time to learn. Learning takes many forms, not only in the classroom, but also in the world at large. We learn by experience, and sometimes these experiences are unpleasant. Because we're programmed to try out new things when we're young, we take risks with our body. Fortunately, it's a finely tuned machine, capable of repairing itself when injured. A cut knee is part of childhood. As soon as the skin is broken, the body's repair mechanism swings into action. Blood capillaries constrict to reduce their diameter and slow the bleeding. Next, platelets, a type of blood cell, make the blood in the cut become viscous and clot. Eventually, the clot forms a plug that stops blood leaking out. Our cells multiply at a prolific rate, not only to increase the number of cells in the body, but also to replace worn-out tissue with newer, stronger, bigger versions. It's the same process of cell growth that heals wounds. In fact, we're so good at healing in our youth, even the scar disappears. Childhood is also the time when our horizons expand. We interact with more and more people. But this increased sociability exposes us to an increased risk of infection. Fortunately, our body has an arsenal of defenses against germs. Eyebrows and eyelashes, ear hairs and nasal hairs catch airborne bacteria. Sweat, tears and mucus wash them off. And skin constantly sheds its top layer of cells, taking bacteria with it. The mouth is especially vulnerable. Recent discoveries have shown that pathogens found here are so potent that if they ended up in vital organs like the heart, they could even prove fatal. Fortunately, the body has a secret weapon. Saliva contains a lysozyme, an enzyme specially developed to destroy bacteria. Though tiny, saliva glands create nearly 1.5 liters of saliva every day. When a pathogen like chickenpox does break through these external defenses, our immune system must react to prevent serious infection. Thousands of tiny viruses travel through the blood. The virus hijacks a cell and manufactures thousands of copies of itself. and the infected cell ruptures, spreading yet more viruses around the body. The outward signs of chickenpox are a rash and a high temperature. The fever that comes with infection is a sign that our body is fighting back. The heat slows down the spread of the disease. Viruses don't reproduce so well when it's hot. The immune system kicks into action. White blood cells latch onto the infected cells and pump in poisonous proteins. It kills the cell, but it kills the viruses too. The crusty skin pustules are the remnants of the battle between the immune system and the chickenpox. Each one contains cell debris and thousands of dead viruses. It may be unpleasant, but getting diseases like this when we're young is vital for our developing immune system. Our body creates memory molecules against the virus's antibodies. We used to rely on antibodies from our mother's milk. Now, we make our own. If we catch the same disease when we're older, the antibodies enable our body to recognize the virus instantly. White blood cells wipe it out before it ever takes hold. This makes childhood the ideal time for vaccination. Vaccines are harmless doses of certain types of virus like rubella, mumps, or polio. They prompt the body to create antibodies, just as it would if infected. By the age of 11, childhood is nearly over, and we're about to change like never before. We're on the brink of adulthood. But first, the hormone surge of puberty. Puberty doesn't stick to a schedule. It begins at any time, depending on our DNA clock, our lifestyle, even our diet. Whether female or male, for all of us, it begins in the brain. At the base, the hypothalamus, the same region that controls our body temperature. Puberty starts when the hypothalamus releases the protein cis-peptin into the brain. The cis-peptin triggers the release of other hormones throughout the body. This stimulates the sex organs to mature. In girls, that means ovulation. For the first time on television, a high-definition view of the ovaries, these off-white organs. This unique footage from Gold Coast IVF Fertility Centre shows something incredible. An egg, inside a protective blister of fluid. At ovulation, the blister ruptures. The egg inside will travel down the fallopian tube, where it will be either fertilized or lost in menstruation. From the onset of puberty, ovulation occurs once a month, but the ovaries begin another equally important role. They start releasing hormones into the bloodstream, including estrogen. They have dramatic and lasting effects on both emotional and physical development. Both boys and girls experience a growth spurt. And each day when we look in the mirror, we see a new face looking back. And the entire body changes beyond recognition. Girls become women, boys become men. Male brains also release kisspeptin during puberty.
Walking down the road, walking home with you.
The flood of new hormones stimulates the testicles to start producing sperm. The testicles also generate a tenfold increase in testosterone, the hormone that turns a boy into a man.
Walking down the road, walking home with you.
The larynx opens up and tilts forward.
And everything you do.
The vocal cords stretch wider.
There's something about you.
The longer cords vibrate at a lower pitch. The voice deepens. Testosterone also stimulates the growth of body hair and doubles muscle mass.
There's something about you. There's something.
These are changes we can see and hear, but we're changing inside too. In the brain, nerve cells undergo extensive rewiring. The result is a transformation of our mood and character. Both sexes suffer a torrent of new emotions, and one new emotion beats them all. For the first time, both sexes find the other sex attractive. From the inside out, our bodies are overwhelmed by new sensations. Our pulse races, our blood pressures rise. Our lips gorge, our cheeks flush with blood. These are all signals that we desire someone. And sometimes, that desire turns out to be mutual. In adolescence, another major life milestone, our first kiss. In the first 2 decades of life, the human body accomplishes something close to miraculous. We're nearly 4 times our original height. We're 21 times heavier. We've digested nearly 9 tons of food. Our heart has beaten over 1 billion times, and our lungs have drawn 200 million breaths. Finally, we're ready, in mind and body, to become an adult. From teens to 20s, the rapid growth of childhood and puberty gives way to a new phase of life: adulthood. The 20s are our peak years both outside and in. Our body has stopped growing taller, but it will never stop changing. Trillions of cells make up our organs and tissues. Over time, these wear out or get damaged. New cells grow and divide to replace the old ones. Over time, whole organs are renewed. We get virtually a brand new body every 2 years. Some tissues regenerate even faster. That's why we need to come here for our hair and nails. Hairs are made from modified dead skin cells. Each hair grows from a hair follicle embedded in the skin. The modified cells grow here, then die as new cells push them upwards. We grow an incredible 11 kilometers of hair over our whole body every year. Our hair grows whether we want it to or not. However, other parts of our body are partially under our control. Choices we make now, like taking exercise, affect us for the rest of our life. Exercise strengthens the heart. It's the body's hardest working muscle. Exercise also makes our heart muscle more efficient. Each contraction pumps more blood, so the heart can beat slower. It's a similar story in the lungs. Exercise stimulates extra capillaries to grow, so we absorb more oxygen with each breath. We also inhale bigger breaths, so every tiny air sac in the lungs gets filled. The surface area of all these sacs is huge. If you laid them all flat, they would cover a tennis court. Working out also strengthens our skeleton. Exertion puts pressure on the bones. That encourages the bone cells to renew bone fibers. Specialized cells called osteoclasts eat away at old or damaged bone. Other cells, osteoblasts, rebuild it with newer, stronger material. The result, dense, strong bone. At the same time, our muscles also build. This is a new imaging technique that combines the highest resolution CT scans with cutting-edge computer power. It's called Volumetric, and it shows how over 650 skeletal muscles make up to a third of our adult body weight. Muscles are made up from bundles of fibers. A good workout rips these fibers apart. When our cells repair the damage afterwards, they add extra material. The muscles grow back bigger and stronger through choices we made. Unfortunately, some choices are less beneficial. Some choices expose us to damage that even our youthful cells can't repair. Parties are part of life in your 20s. We all know smoke can damage the lungs, but smoke is not the only hazard here. From the day we were born, our ears have been gradually damaged by loud noise. The problem is deep inside the ear, past the ossicle bones inside the cochlea. These fine hairs, the stereocilia, turn sound into nerve impulses, but they are very fragile. Loud noise destroys these irreplaceable cells. The hairs that respond to high frequencies are most affected, possibly because loud, high-pitched sounds shake their foundations more violently. The effect is still too small to notice, but the frequency range of our hearing is already shrinking. Another source of damage is alcohol. Though social drinking is very much part of growing up, alcohol is a poison. As we absorb it into our bloodstream, it affects both our organs and our state of mind. A few drinks raise the heart rate and blood pressure. It makes us feel relaxed. We lose our inhibitions and our fine coordination. These sensations are the result of chemical reactions inside the brain, especially in this region, the cerebellum, the region responsible for coordination and balance. Alcohol causes a chemical imbalance in the neurons. While some synapses accept signals more often, others become blocked. And the more we drink, the more the synapses are affected. Alcohol also fools the brain into thinking we've drunk too much water. It sends the kidneys into overdrive, expelling valuable liquid into the bladder. We might not feel dehydrated now, but next morning, it's a different story. After a party, it's the liver that clears up the mess. The liver is the body's biochemical control center. It performs over 500 functions. One of them is to convert poisons into harmless chemicals. One of the poisons is alcohol. The process demands water, And the liver doesn't care where it takes it from. The brain is 75% water. When the liver demands water, it's the brain that suffers. Water and essential minerals are sucked out and the brain shrinks away from the skull. We experience a very particular kind of headache, a hangover. The best cure? Drink some water. Time passes, and we get to know our limits. Now, new challenges are on the horizon. It's time to find love and have children of our own. Many of us meet our future partner at work. We may think the attraction is social or physical, but a lot of it is biological too. We use our eyes to size up our date. But looks aren't everything. Attraction is also about smell. Inside our nose, the olfactory nerves do more than detect smells. They also detect chemicals we can't smell. Pheromones, odorless hormonal messengers we release in our sweat. Pheromones are much more than the body's natural perfume. They carry detailed information about our genetic health and our ability to resist disease. Our brains detect these signals and help us choose a partner with the best possible genes. But love is not just an emotion. It's about chemistry. When we see our partner, we release adrenaline into the blood. Our heart pounds, we can't sleep. And then as we get closer and more involved with our lover, another hormone comes into play. Our brain floods with dopamine, the feel-good hormone. As potent as cocaine, it induces euphoria and it's addictive. It leaves us wanting more.